How did we end up like this? Gaza is burning at the moment, and even if we want to help, we can't do much. How did Muslim Ummah come to this point?
To really understand the situation, we have to go back in history.
Many of us are unfortunately completely unaware of the events which occurred from 1914 onwards, and the lasting drastic impact these have had in shaping the Muslim world as we know it today. From the dismantling of the Ottoman Caliphate, to the occupation of Palestine and all the way up to today, it is important to be aware of certain key moments in history in order to understand why the Ummah finds itself in its current position.
The involvement of the Ottomans. The immediate aftermath of the war.
Many of us are unfortunately completely unaware of the events which occurred from 1914 onwards, and the lasting drastic impact these have had in shaping the Muslim world as we know it today. From the dismantling of the Ottoman Caliphate, to the occupation of Palestine and all the way up to today, it is important to be aware of certain key moments in history in order to understand why the Ummah finds itself in its current position.
Background.
Turning our attention to 1914, we find the British Empire ruled much of the world, controlling over a quarter of the globe, whilst the USA was not yet a world power.
Other large empires of varying strengths included the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Russian Empire, and of course, the Ottoman Caliphate. The Muslim world may have had its share of issues and certainly was not as strong as it once was, yet it still had a united caliphate, global Ummah, and therefore, a ray of hope. However, on the 28th of June 1914, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, led to the «war to end all wars», and the collapse, or at least significant weakening, of many of the globe's superpowers. The Archduke was killed by a group of Serbian nationalists in Sarajevo, igniting nationalistic and ethnic tensions which had been simmering for decades and led to an ultimatum being issued to Serbia by the Austro-Hungarians. Eventually, they attacked Serbia, leading the Russians to come to their allies' defense. Indeed, European alliances at the time were very complicated and it was all too easy to get sucked into war. Soon the Germans got involved, allied with the Austro-Hungarians. They used the war as an excuse to invade a number of neighboring countries including France, Switzerland, Belgium and the Netherlands. Slowly but surely, every European and world power was forced into the war, ending up with two camps: the Allied forces, of the Russians, the British, French, Italians and USA, versus the Central Powers, of the Germans, the Austro-Hungarians, the Bulgarians and, crucially for Muslims, the Ottomans. Whilst there was the odd skirmish in Muslim lands, what became known as the Great War, and later known as World War I, was largely fought within Europe, as it was very much a European issue. Sultan Mehmed V ruled the Ottomans from 1909 through to 1918. Although the empire ruled much of the Arab lands, it had been in decline for some time already, and it is said that the Sultanate had become a figurehead position for the last 100 to 150 years. The empire had lost Bosnia and Albania before the Great War began and the economy was in tatters, whilst European nations were colonizing various lands in their military ascendancy. In sharp contrast to early Muslim civilizations and much like today's Muslim world, the Ottomans had to rely heavily on others for technological support. The British had provided this support through much of the 1800s until the relationship broke down in 1880. Leading to a partnership with the Germans instead. This partnership eventually grew very strong, symbolized by the famous Orient Express in 1889, a luxurious direct train between Germany and Turkey. When the war broke out, the Sultan was determined to keep it a European issue, and thus attempted to remain neutral.
However, certain groups including a nationalistic secular movement known as the Young Turks as well as the Grand Vizier Said Halim Pasha and Minister of War Enver Pasha were working in the background to form a secret agreement with the Germans in August 1914 which became known as the Ottoman-German Alliance. The Minister of War, Enver Pasha, is said to have instigated an attack on a Russian vessel in the Black Sea in late October 1914. Resulting in the Russians declaring war on the Ottomans on 3 November, with the British and French following suit days later. The Sultan was now left with no choice but to support the secret alliance and, in his role as caliph, proclaimed jihad against the Allied forces on 14 November.